With 28 years later just released, depending on when you are watching the video, we thought you'd like us to explore 28 Days Later, Aftermath, which basically is a short 100-page comic book that is set between the original film and its sequel film, 28 Weeks Later. The book follows 4 interconnected stories, and through these stories, it tells us about the very development of the rage virus, how it was unleashed in London, and how it was contained in a city that was once ravaged by the virus. So let's explore the entire 28 days, the Aftermath saga. Oh, and before I begin, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous long reads. Also, you can find the entire 28 Days comic book saga from the link in the description below. And now, let's begin. Before 28 days, the creation of the rage virus. We opened with panels showing CCTV footage of various violent crimes that had taken place in various parts of London. A group of criminals had brutally beaten up a man to near death, leaving the man in a coma once he was admitted into the hospital. Another panel showed a woman being dragged by a man into an abandoned building for possible sexual assault, but the man was thankfully arrested before he could rape her. A third panel featured a violent altercation taking place between 2 men where the truck driver had beaten the other man to death. The truck driver was arrested, but ended up hanging himself in his jail cell. The most harrowing revelation of all the footage is revealed to have taken place over a period of 1 night by the security officer playing the footage. The security officer soon asks the 2 scientists present in the room about the purpose of their visit. One of the scientists, named Clive, reveals that they are in the process of trying to create a medicine which could suppress the unmanageable rage in humans. Although the officer barely understands Clive's scientific jargon, the police captain enters the room to check on the situation, and upon his exit, engages in a conversation with the other scientist. Clive notices the other scientist handing the police captain a suspicious envelope, although he doesn't care much to actually question the scientist about it. We soon learn a little bit more about Clive's life, as back in his apartment, he contacts his ex-wife while drinking, despite her telling him not to. Even though divorced, Clive still feels a right to call her whenever he wants to, as he used to be married to her, further requesting his ex-wife to also stop telling people that he abused her when they were together. But upon her retorting, he goes on a rant about throwing things around and maybe pushing her, but he never actually raised his hand on her. Once his ex-wife hangs up the phone out of frustration, Clive throws it to the ground, implying that the scientist who wants to control human rage was possibly following the idea for more personal reasons than he is willing to accept. The next day, in the Cambridge laboratory, Clive argues with his partner, Warren, who has decided to experiment their medicine on a man. Warren does not want to take up volunteers from the student body, as they are known for a lot of things, but uncontrollable rage is not one of them. Clive, on the other hand, wants to rather shift to chimpanzees as the test subject. Upon Warren's insistence, once Clive decides to check the experiment, he realises that the man is actually a criminal, particularly one he has seen recently on the police security footage. Clive and Warren soon get into another argument with Clive, realising that Warren has gotten access to the criminal by paying off the police captain. Despite Clive's objections, Warren tells him that he can quit if he wants to, but if he leaves, then Warren will use his connection with the police captain to dig out buried records of Clive's past domestic violence charges, forcing Clive to stay in the project. Later that night, as Clive copes with the situation at hand by drinking, he hears a loud scream coming from the lab. The criminal has become more violent after an overdose of the experimental drug, as Warren found initial dosages to be diluted and now failed to handle the guy by himself. Punching Warren, the criminal threatens to gut out Clive and to report their lab to the authorities. Thankfully for Clive though, before the criminal could take any action, he is stopped by Warren, who has hit the guy in the head hard enough with a fire extinguisher to pop open one of his eyeballs and ultimately kill him. Worrying about Warren's kill, Clive asks him what he is going to do in case he gets caught. Warren, being the manipulator he is, makes Clive believe that he is an accessory to the murder too. Manipulated further, Clive ends up helping Warren to hide the body in an empty field. Upon Clive's question of what he will report to the police captain, Warren reveals that he will just report that the criminal has escaped, and due to his charges, no one will bother looking for him for too long. In the following days, the 2 scientists continue on their experiment, only to realise that their medicine cannot be spread around using pills and aerosol, crop dusting the entire city being completely out of the picture. But because of Clive's sneeze the day before, Warren got the idea that they will need a virus to improve the spread of their medicine over a larger area. Warren decides on the Ebola virus to create the final form of the medicine. Finally creating a new virus, the two scientists test it on a chimpanzee. With the initial success of the medicine, Warren points out to Clive that with the money of financiers, they will finally be able to follow their intended career paths on their own terms. Unfortunately for the two, though, 2 weeks later, the virus has mutated, causing the chimpanzee to be more rageful instead of suppressing it. Clive mocks Warren for creating a rage virus, finally reaching his breaking point. He punches Warren for calling him a bastard and then quits from being part of the experiment. Returning to his apartment, Clive reports the chimpanzees being kept hostage for experimenting to an animal rights activism group, following which he commits suicide by shooting himself. Back in the lab, Warren informs the financiers about the experiment going to the opposite route of its intended purpose. The financiers agree to talk to him later about different applications for this new virus. He also assures the financiers that Clive will not be a problem for their new ideas about using the virus. Upon ending the call, Warren hears a chimpanzee shouting. Entering the room to check, he is brutally bitten on the face by the chimpanzee before it escapes. Warren's eyes turn blood red, making him the first human infected by the rage virus, as the story ties into the opening minutes of the 28 Days Later movie. 1 to 14 days later, The Family Survivor. Taking place on the day after the animal activists tried to rescue the rage virus-affected chimpanzees, we come to the Cherry Hinton Hall in Cambridge. A family of 5 tries to enjoy their family picnic as the dad, Roger, reads in the newspaper about the deaths that have taken place in the Cambridge laboratory. Roger's wife, Barb, tells him to put down the newspaper and not ruin a nice day with grim news. Their 2 kids, Sid and Sophie on the other hand, makes it quite obvious that they are not happy to be out on a picnic. Sid mentions how bored he is, and Sophie pointing out to Mum being the only one happy to be at the picnic. Roger, getting angry over his kids' rude behaviour, warns them to not talk to their mother like that. When Sid dismisses his words by saying whatever, Roger shoves him on a tree and points out that even he doesn't want to be in a picnic and would rather enjoy his day off watching sports and having a pint of beer. But he emphasises that it is the one thing their mother wanted for her birthday, so they should just respect her wish and actually enjoy themselves like the adults they are. With Sid realising his mistake, the father and son reach a moment of fun banter. Roger praises Sid for the piercings on his face, mentioning that it takes guts, but also pointed out that it is important to look out for family too. Joking about his son's punk aesthetic, Roger remembers being an actual punk at Sid's age when the actual punk culture came to be. Roger then points Sid to notice a nearby cycling girl fallen on the ground due to an accident and paramedics checking up on her. Roger jokes that the aerodynamic tights they wear sometimes break the sound barrier, leading them to crash. Returning to their picnic spot, the family start enjoying their time together as Barb searches for her youngest son, Liam, who has been playing around the park. Roger notices Liam standing near a tree and calls out to him to return, but Liam is too fascinated by seeing a chimpanzee on the tree. The chimpanzee is revealed to have escaped from the Cambridge lab, made obvious by his metal helmet similar to the one used by Warren and Clive to experiment in the earlier story, and the blood-red eyes. The chimpanzee jumps down to start punching Liam and pukes out blood all over his face. The family quickly comes to Liam's rescue, with Roger and Sid beating the chimpanzee to death. The paramedics from the nearby ambulance also rush off to help them. The paramedics discuss Cambridge hospitals suffering a major backup for unknown reasons, and taking Liam to a hospital in London being the only option. As they take him towards the ambulance, worrying about internal bleeding, Liam starts convulsing and pukes out blood similar to the chimpanzee, spreading the virus further to the paramedics and nearby people. Barb becomes horrified seeing Liam's condition, while the ambulance decides to take him to London for treatment, instructing the rest of the family members to follow them in their car. As the ambulance exits the park, a nearby cyclist notices the dead chimpanzee, while the rage virus-infected humans attack him from behind and bite him in the neck. The family hurries off in their car after the ambulance. Driving fast, Sid requests Roger to slow down a bit while Roger's mind gets preoccupied about not knowing which hospital they are taking Liam to. As they continue driving, they lose sight of the ambulance as it has already gone far. As Roger rushes to catch up to the ambulance, the two kids start noticing humans attacking other humans on the streets. Horrifying, the family manages to catch up to the ambulance by noticing its red light, while infected humans attack others all around the street. The ambulance stops all of a sudden, with the driver coming out and opening the back door to reveal a monstrous Liam, who has also infected the paramedics that were with him inside. When Liam jumps and attacks their car's windshield, Roger steers the car to use the force to push off the infected Liam from the car. Barb gets angry at how Roger treated Liam, but Sid tries to make her understand that whatever it was, it definitely was not their Liam. A few days later, the family is quarantined inside their house, blocking the door with furniture and nailing the windows shut. As they gather in the kitchen to listen to the news broadcast, they find out that the Prime Minister has declared a state of emergency. The broadcaster tells the citizens to not leave their houses and definitely not try to approach Heathrow, Gatwick, London City, Stansted or Luton airports, which have been plagued with numerous attacks, leaving many dead. Areas of Holborn and Liverpool Street to as far as Regent's Park are all reported to be under attack. But before the news can be completed, the radio goes dead, making the family more scared for their lives. Sid wonders how they will deal with the situation, as waiting inside the house is just waiting for death. With Roger clueless, Barb suggests heading to the train station, as after losing Liam, she wants to protect their two remaining children. Unfortunately though, the next day, as the family stand in the parking of the King's Cross station, they notice nothing but chaos and blood all around them. Infected humans biting the ones who haven't been infected. People screaming that it is the end of the world. Having to come up with another escape plan, they discuss their options. Roger suggests going to the West End or Trafalgar or down on the embankment, hoping for the police to be around there. But Sid mentions that it will be chaos all the way down to Waterloo. He then suggests going to Thames near Battersea Callum, where Barb suggests their friend Ali's father's yacht being moored near St George's Wharf. Before getting into the car, they also decide to take the road via Westminster Bridge and Parliament, heading on down past Millbank in hopes of finding help from the government. Back on the road once again, the kids notice people looking out from the windows, making Sophie wonder if they can ask them for help. Roger, though, refuses to ask anybody for help unless they are from the police or the military, as they find a horde of infected humans coming towards them. Hitting them as they make their way ahead, they manage to drive away from the horde. Driving past it, the family finds the Parliament abandoned and heads towards Westminster Bridge, finding more infected humans nearby and the bridge barricaded. Roger manages to cross the barricade using the car. As they come out of the car, the family finds themselves surrounded by the infected humans from all sides. Noticing abandoned boats in the river below, they realise that the only way out is to jump. Barb and Roger decide to handle the infected to allow their kids to get to safety. The four hug each other with Roger, assuring the two kids that they will be right behind them. As the two kids jump into the river and reach a boat to escape, the parents become glad about their kids' safety. Roger and Barb profess their love to each other one last time as they prepare to fight a losing battle against the rage virus infected humans. 29 to 32 days later, kill or be killed. In the abandoned streets of London, an infected man walks around the streets looking for humans by sniffing. Noticing a woman in a nearby lane, the infected human runs towards it, only for the woman to be revealed to be a mannequin with perfumes attached to it. As the infected stares in confusion, his head gets blown off by a bullet. The bullet has been shot by a man wearing protective gear named Hugh Baker. He comes down from the rooftop and burns the dead corpse of the infected man using lighter fluid. Hugh reveals in his inner conversation that he has been observing the infected to sniff the air, meaning that they get attracted to the survivors by their smell. Realizing that he needs to stay away from any chemicals while bathing and stick to rainwater, Hugh reveals he is the only one remaining in the great city of London, which is now his, and he will do whatever necessary to protect it. As he gets approached by two more infected humans, he manages to shoot one of them while the other gets shot by another survivor, a masked man. Upon getting shouted at by Hugh, the masked man also shoots at him and leaves. Luckily for Hugh, he was saved by his bulletproof vest, as he realizes that it is now war among the two of them. As Hugh drives around, he reveals that he didn't have guns earlier, but found them by coming across military barricades, an action he repeats once more by searching for military barricades filled with dead soldiers to steal their guns for his ammo. At night, on a rooftop, after talking to the picture of his possible late wife, he mentions that he is keeping keeping the city safe just in case his wife ever decides to return there. Finishing his food, Hugh starts looking for the masked man through a telescope and notices fire on the rooftop of a nearby building. Continuing on his new mission, Hugh kills more infected humans using a machete. Walking around the lanes, he is fooled by his own mannequin trap but gets a new idea through it. More and more infected humans gather in the alley where we see the masked man also trying to make an escape from them and gets lucky by finding a car. But luck runs out when he is about to start the car and he suddenly gets drenched with a large amount of perfume liquid. This causes all the infected humans to easily track the masked man and surround him, getting inside the car. Hugh reveals that it is his plan being carried out as he stands right on the rooftop of the building below which the masked man is getting attacked. With the masked man's mask finally removed, Hugh shoots him in the head and then shoots the car, leading to a massive explosion. Standing on the rooftop, Hugh takes pride in making London all his, but the wind gets cut short when he hears a noise and looks up to find US Navy jets flying above. 38 to 42 days later, are we safe yet? Inside a tent, a patient's eye opened to see a doctor and a girl checking up on him. The doctor questioning the girl about the patient's identity, but since he was a hospital rescue, he has no ID but only a bad head wound. The doctor keeps on referring to the girl as a nurse, but the girl corrects him to say that she is just a help and not a proper nurse. The patient, now awake, confirms that he can hear clearly as the doctor makes his leave. The girl introduces herself to the patient as Sophie, Roger's daughter from the second story. The patient reveals that he was left alone in the hospital due to the spread of the virus, as Sophie revealed that she lost her parents and her younger brother to the virus. Now it's just her and her brother Sid who are left, while the patient reveals himself to be Clive, the partial creator of the rage virus from the first story. Meanwhile, outside the tent, we see a military guarded area with various tents and barricades. Two guards walk in with Hugh Baker, the lone survivor of London, who asks the guards to let him go. Despite his behaviour, the guards warn him to keep his attitude, but once Hugh asks them to let him go again, they lock him up in a cage. On the other side of the cage, we get introduced to Sid smoking. Sid goes on to reveal that he recognises Hugh as the owner of a newsagent's in Piccadilly, where he used to buy comics, forcing Hugh to also remember him. Questioning Sid about the nature of the camp, Sid reveals that they didn't get any answer from the authorities and gathered that they are waiting for the infected humans to die down. Sid and Sophie noticed that the infected stopped eating, causing them to die out of starvation, making Hugh regret for wasting his gathered ammo. Hugh, still unable to understand the purpose of the camp, questions Sid. He reveals that the only answer they were given was that they were keeping the survivors safe. With the confusion subsided, Hugh and Sid finally exchange greetings as they become confidants. Later that night, Sid brings coffee to Sophie as he questions her about working double shifts. Sophie reveals that she has to work double shifts, but only for one patient, Clive, who got an infection due to his head wound and finally slept after being given a high dosage of morphine. When Sid makes a joke about the military people being their captors, Sophie reminds him that they are the ones keeping the two of them safe, but Sid has his doubts after seeing their rude behaviour with Hugh. Sophie tells him that Hugh was treated badly for taking shots at the surveillance planes, but Sid tells her that Hugh is a good person who just hates to be pushed around. As they talk further, Sid questions him about Clive, to which she reveals recognising him from either the television or the newspaper. When Sid asks if he knows what caused this infection to spread, Sophie reveals that Clive has said it's because of a virus, but he definitely seems to know a lot more than he is letting on. Meanwhile, outside the camp, borders another infected, starving human shows up, who gets shot by the guards. Clive, who was sleeping inside the tent with Sophie near him, dreams about trying to stop his late partner Warren from experimenting, woken up by the sound of the gunshot. Sophie tries to comfort Clive by revealing that with time, less and less infected humans are showing up to the camp, meaning that they might be able to see the end of the virus soon enough. Clive, though, doesn't see that ray of hope, making Sophie question why he believes that, a question whose answers are a lot more than she bargained for. Clive reveals that he was a scientist who was researching epidemic viruses and ran experiments. Sophie questions if the experiments were done on humans, but Clive reveals that it was not done on humans, but on chimpanzees, making Sophie realise that Clive may be responsible for the virus as well as indirectly for the death of her parents and younger brother. Outside, Sid and Hugh talk about why they are being kept in the dark about the camp's real purpose. Sid wonders if it may be for public safety, but Hugh doesn't buy that story. When Sophie ran outside crying, she reveals what Clive was talking about, but she cannot trust him completely because he is under the influence of morphine. Hearing Sophie, Hugh realizes that maybe they are being kept there because they might soon become the new test subject for the virus experiment. By dawn, with a good word from Sophie, the guards let Hugh out of the cage on the condition that he remains on his best behaviour. Unbeknownst to the guard, though, this a part of a plan by Hugh, Sid and Sophie as they try to find out more about the true nature of the camp and Clive. Sneaking into the tent, Hugh finally meets Clive, while Sophie remains on the lookout for the guards and the doctor. Clive, trying his best to hide the full story behind the creation of the virus, reveals that it is man-made. He believes that despite the accidental creation, the government may be using the virus to control people. Sid remains unconvinced that they are going to be experiments. Clive, though, doesn't believe if it matters, coming to the point that with the virus being man-made, there's very less of a chance that the threat of it will end anytime soon. This makes Hugh realise that regardless of the purpose of the camp, they have to make their escape soon if they want to survive. Executing their new plan, Sid and Sophie take out 4 guards by hitting them on the head and steal their clothes and gear to escape the camp once and for all. Lying to the guards about a change in shift, the group got caught in their lie immediately when they noticed blood on one of the uniforms. Immediately holding them at gunpoint, the guards informed the control centre when the alarm went off. Sid and Hugh ended up being responsible for holding the guards back, while Sophie and Clive ran for the hills. Sid and Hugh eventually get killed by the guards. When a guard worries about Sophie and Clive, another guard assures him that the chopper will hunt them down. While walking up the hill, Sophie realised that on top of all her family members, she also lost Sid. Being overwhelmed by grief, initially not letting her stop, Clive realises that he needs to change his manipulative behaviour. Finally, he revealed to Sophie that his headshot was actually self-inflicted, making Sophie question why he would do something like that. Clive accepts that he has been lying to her and the others just so he can escape and find a way to make things right by killing off the virus. He tells Sophie that he was involved in the creation of the virus, which got out of control and then mutated, leading to the death of hundreds and thousands. Sophie's mind finally snaps and she stops Clive from talking by kissing him with tears coming down her eyes. Looking into Clive's eyes, she mentions, "This is for my family, my brother, my mum and dad, for all of London." Making Clive stop talking once more, Sophie takes her revenge by shooting Clive, ending his story. As Sophie throws the gun from her hand and stands up, repeating the same line she has said to Clive, but this time adding on, "So it never happens again." A chopper flies above Sophie, shooting her in the head, ending this chapter in the world of 28 Days Later. Marvellous verdict. 28 Days Later, Aftermath provides an alternate point of view to the first 2 movies and tells the story of 4 protagonists with little to no bearing on the story of the original story. The graphic novel remains non-canonical, especially due to the use of 2 other chimpanzees that escaped from the Cambridge laboratory, as per the first and second story. But despite these small changes, the graphic novel remains successful in providing at least 3 likeable protagonists who pretty much become the victim of their own circumstances. But the most complex character to come out of this is Clive, who can be called an antagonist by leading the others to their death, just in hopes of his own escape. He was definitely a better human being than his partner Warren, but signs of evil corrupting him was present from the first story itself. These new characters, despite not adding a lot, provide a great addition to the 28 Days Later universe and are a must-read for the big-time fans of the 28 Days Later movies.